So Moses has just seen God's glory, and he has just begged God for a third time to move in like God had originally planned. And for a third time, God agrees. And they hang out on that mountain and they talk for about another 6 weeks. And Moses comes down the mountain and he's carrying with him the 2 new stone tablets with the same 10 non-negotiables for the committed relationship on them. And as he's walking down, his face is literally glowing from being that close to God. So when the people see him, they kind of freak out a little bit, and Moses has to start wearing something to cover his face whenever he's not with God. Because with God, they just talk like friends. But Moses gets together all the people and explains to them the outcome of his conversation with God. And all the artists get everybody together who has the skills to do it, and they start building this big tent according to the verbal blueprints that God gave Moses. They build this area, they donate their time and their skills, and they melt down their silver and gold jewelry and take apart their clothing, all to use as building materials. They actually end up donating so much jewelry and clothing that Moses has to tell the people to stop. But they work together to build this area. And it's about the size of a football field all told, but there are 3 main parts to it. And the first part is just this large open-air courtyard that's separated from the rest of everything by a cloth boundary all around. The people would come in and bring God kind of thank you gifts or gifts for reconciliation when they were sorry for something they'd done. And these gifts were usually animals or bread. And the people in charge of the area, they were called priests, they would give those gifts to God in the right way. And part of it would be roasted over a fire for God, and part of it would be given to the priests to eat for food. And then the second part was the actual tent itself in the middle of that area, and only could go in there. You walk in and it's beautiful. There's all this nature imagery, all the sights and the smells. It's quite an experience. And then within that tent is the third part. It's the most inside part, and only one person could go in there. The guy who's the leader of all the priests. And even he could only go in there once a year, and only in a very specific way, because that's where God said he would actually be. And it's separated from the rest of everything by this embroidered curtain all the way around, and inside is this gold kind of chest. And in the chest are the new stone tablets with the non-negotiables for the committed relationship, since Moses broke the first set. There's the jar, the bread that God's been feeding his people with. And on top of the lid that's covering the chest are these figures called cherubim. They're kind of like angels, but not really. And they have their wings positioned so that it's covering the top of the chest. And that's where God said he would talk to Moses from. And all of this is kind of the miniature copy of what's going on in the actual throne room in heaven. Well, the people build this area and they do everything exactly as God said. And when they're done, Moses inspects the work and gives it his seal of approval. And then they start setting it up. From the most inside part, to the tent with everything inside it, to the big cloth boundary with everything inside that. And after they're all done setting it up, the cloud comes down on top of that area. And God's presence and his glory just fill it. And God's glory fills it so strong that not even Moses can go inside. God has moved in, and his being there purifies that whole area. And God travels with his people, and he leads them towards that good homeland that he promised, where there's more than enough to go around.